It's Judy on the radio, building dreams and achieving more, telling it just like it is. Most of all, keeping it real. Are you ready for real talk? Changing lives and communities. Real talk. Saving all our families. Real talk. Bringing hope for you and me. Real talk. Real talk with Judy. Real talk with Judy on the radio. Real talk with Judy. Real talk with Judy on the radio.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Real Talk with Judy Live Radio Show. I am Dr. Judy Mandrell, your Real Talk host, and I want to thank you so very much for tuning in again with me for another hour of empowerment, inspiration, and motivation from the number one talk show of empowering, inspiring, motivating, and helping women, and especially and men and boys and girls everywhere, helping everybody see it before you see it, because if you don't, you never will see it. Again, thank you so very much for tuning in. I am so thankful that you all are here. And even before I get started, let me say this. Thank you all. Thank you to everyone who voted. Thank you to everyone who voted for me. There was actually a tie, but I am one of your radio host show of the year by the Tampa Bay Gospel Awards with Brother Gerard Holmes and his staff. And I want to say thank you all so very much for voting. It really meant a lot. When they called my name, I was like, yay. So thank you all. Tallahassee, my mom and my sisters and different people from all over the world, you all voted. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And so as we get on with the show, I want to thank you for joining me again on another Tuesday, going into my 8th year. Y'all, we just got out of year 7, and God is just doing some good things. And because of my voice of influence that God has given to me, doors like galore are opening in so many areas. But I don't know why I played it kind of short of thinking where it would take me on the radio. So last week I did Voices That Inspire with WFSU. Then I did How Did I Get Here with Dave Ferrari. And the Lord is just opening up doors for the radio show, and so who knows what all God has prepared. But I pray, my prayer is that we stay humble before the Lord and bring to you what God would have me to give, so you can be the people that God wants you to be. He got stuff on the inside of you that got to come out. So thank you for joining me. It's a beautiful day here in Tallahassee, Florida, November the 8th, 2022. Very important day all over the world. This midterm election. My Lord, and we right here on radio, hallelujah, 95.3 FM, Facebook Live, YouTube. Y'all do me a favor, go ahead and tag. I have 2 very important men who are going to be on this show today, because y'all, our turnout is low, especially in the Black community. But they're going to tell us why it's so important to vote, what is at stake. We have a lot of things at stake, and they're going to tell us. I wanted to bring in some experts who could help us to understand the importance of voting. Okay, so, and it's in Leon County, it's everywhere, but go vote. All right, so we're going to get into that. But I'm glad you joined me, and but go ahead, tag and share. All right, Mama, thank you. I see my sister Tanya's on here. Tanya, hello. That's Tanya from Fort Lauderdale, my sister. My mom, Mother Irma, Dr. Hunter Wesley. Y'all, God is doing some good things in her body. I want to thank God so very much for her. Minister Brenda Howard. Thank God so very much. She has been unofficially appointed as the public relations director. No, they're the one who get everything out, right? So she's joining missionary John Louis. She is our production marketing director. Priscilla John Lewis, who does such a fantastic job. And I'm honored. My husband is tuned in today, I think, by YouTube. He's off today, and I'm so glad that he's able to join me this morning. My amazing husband. I'm telling you, that man is everywhere with me. He is the reason I get to do what I do. All right, so listen. I want you all to go ahead. Oh, don't forget, ladies, mark the date, December 5th. December 5th. December 5th. Don't forget at the I forgot what it's called, but for me not remembering at the Florida State University Center. I forgot what the new name is, but we're going to be there December the 5th. And so go ahead. Let me say this to those who helped me last Tuesday. Now we're going to do it again. I'm going to do it again this week to get people to give. I want everybody to give, if you would, $50. $50 as a celebration. The whole month of December. You could go to my Cash App. You can go to my Zelle, or you can go to PayPal. The links are down there. But I'm asking everybody, if you would, to give $50. Everybody, if you would, to give $50. My ultimate goal is $10,000. I had a goal set for last week, and we exceeded it by $1,700. I had $1,700 more than what I wanted. So we're going to get into the show. And the mission of today, our mission for today, is to really get you to understand the importance of your voice. And the vote, it said vote. It matters. And so, as I stated, I have two young men who are coming on today, very powerful men who will help us navigate this show, help us navigate this show so you can really, really get into it. My first guest today is Pastor Marcus McCoy. He is our first guest today, and he is the director. He is the director of the statewide voting. I messed that up. He is bring him on, Priscilla, so we can tell who he is. Mr. Dr. Pastor Marcus.
Dr. Mandrell, how are you today?
Like, how did I do that? Yeah, hey. This is a hardworking man, and Pastor Marcus coordinates statewide, and he's going to introduce himself in a little bit. But statewide, Pastor Marcus put us together, ministers from all across the state of Florida, and he's passionate about this, our faith, and he is the state faith outreach director. But he put us together. Pastor Marcus, I'm so glad your schedule allowed you to be here today.
Honored to be here, and so thankful for the opportunity.
Again, he's going to introduce himself even more in a little bit, because God has blessed us, and I need y'all to get everybody on here so we can understand what's at stake. And perhaps if you haven't voted, you would go vote after today's show. And we also have with us Mr. Genesis Robinson. He's the political director, and both of these men serve with equal ground. Hello, Mr. Genesis.
Hey there, Dr. Mandrell. Good to be with you today.
We're so glad to have you. And I'm telling y'all, we're going to get into the show because I really want them to talk to us. I really want them to have. And if you have any question, put it in the chat. For those on Facebook, now those of you who are at your desk, if you have any question, text them to me. All right, because we want to make sure that when you call in, we're able to hear. So if you would just text them to me, I will ask them the questions. Okay, so we're not going to have call in because I really want the people to hear you if you call in, and we're going to work that out. But if you have any question, call me 850-21. Text me. Don't call me. Text me at 850-212-8805. That's 850-212-8805. So, Pastor Marcus McCoy, let's introduce ourselves. Introduce yourself to the audience.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Mandrell. Good afternoon to everyone. As the aforementioned, my name is Pastor Marcus McCoy Jr., and I have the honor and privilege of serving as the State Faith Outreach Director for Equal Ground Education Action Fund. Equal Ground is a Black-led, Black constituent-focused voting rights organization within the state of Florida. We are headquartered in Orlando, Florida, but have offices and partnerships throughout the state of Florida, from the Panhandle all the way down to Miami. A part of the work that Equal Ground also convenes is the Florida Network of African American Clergy Alliance Presidents. And so we are so honored to be a part of that. I also serve as the senior pastor of the Greater Refuge Memorial Church in downtown Orlando. And we're just so honored to be connected with Dr. Mandrell. And I just want to say, Doctor, thank you so much for your service and for your sacrifice and your dedication to the call of justice and liberty for all. You are a real champion, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you so very much. He's also an overseer, y'all. He left that part out. He's an overseer too. So in his church. But I would bother him about that. But Pastor Marcus, I am honored that you represent us on such a higher level and pulling all of us together, and then giving platform for us, even as the clergy, to ask questions so we can be better informed, so we can help the people we serve and the people in our community to understand what it is. It's not just because I know in Tallahassee, a lot of those people, they said they didn't know who the judges were that they were voting for. So some said no, they voted no, do not put them back because the census put them there. So they all voted no for every last one of those judges. And some did not understand the Constitution or the legislative bills that was on there. But one of the things I can say, you all have helped us as clergy to understand that we're better able to go and serve our people, the people that God had, were God's people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're honored to be connected with you all. You know, the Bible teaches us that wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, but with all thy getting, get an understanding. And so that's what the work of Equal Ground is charged to do, to provide an efficient and effective understanding about the local, state, and national politics that affect the communities we have been called to serve, so that you and other representatives can do their best in serving our community.
Thank you so very much. And we want to bring on the political director, Mr. Genesis Robinson. Go ahead and give the people a little bit about you, sir.
Good morning to one and all. My name is Genesis Robinson. I am the political director for Equal Ground. My dear brother and colleague, Marcus, Pastor McCoy, has already shared about the organization and what we do. But one of the things that I wanted to highlight is our work in voter education. That is really the cornerstone to what we do at the organization, is try to do our best to inform our people about the issues that are taking place, not only in Tallahassee or nationally, but even at the local level, right? Because as we know, being an informed voter and an informed citizen is so crucial to making our democracy work. And so we really pride ourselves on coming to where folks are, meeting them where they are, to provide education on a wide range of issues. And obviously today's election day, so it's our Super Bowl, if you will. And so we want to do our part to make sure that everyone gets out and exercises their right to vote, but does so as an informed voter and not just, going to the polls without the information that they need.
Thank you, gentlemen, so very much. Just such intelligent speaking gentlemen and all of that. Thank you, Mother Tinsley, for, she said, how we need vote. Oh, we definitely need voter education. We need it badly, y'all. So that's why I have them on here, because it has been stated that we have a very low turnout, And I know Pastor McCoy, Mr. Genesis, that we have been working on this for years.
Yes.
What do you think is the reason why Black people don't vote?
Well, the turnout for this election is critically low. Right now, overall, out of all of the registered voters, there's over 14 million registered voters in the state of Florida. Only about 33% have turned out to vote. So that's a little over 4 million, or I should say a little under 5 million going into election day. Out of over 14 million, only a little under 5 million people have voted. So that's a 33% turnout number, which is incredibly low. And to put that in perspective, of that number, 24% of Black people have voted. So we have about 2 million Black registered voters in the state of Florida. And of that 2 million, only 24% of us have voted. So that's a problem. We have to do a better job of getting out today. And so that's why we're telling people the polls do not close until 7 p.m. Make a plan, get out there and go vote. If you're in line before 7 p.m., you have the right to vote, even if the polls technically close at 7. As long as you're in line by 7, you can cast a vote, even if it isn't until 9 o'clock. Stay in line and make sure that your vote is cast, because once you're in line, they have to stay open. And so, with 24% of Black folks who are registered in this state having registered to vote, that's just a serious problem when we're looking at only 1 in 4 of us have gone to exercise our right to vote. That's a serious problem.
Pastor Marcus, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think Genesis outlines the data in a tangible way. So that 24%, you're only talking about 500,000 African Americans that have voted out of the 2 million that are registered to vote. And so I think it's incumbent upon us to really look in our houses, because those individuals are our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers, our nieces, our nephews. And at this particular juncture and critical time, we have to become more hands-on in ensuring those that we have direct influence with have been given encouragement, nudging, aggravation, if you would, to get out and vote. My wife, I voted on today. My wife actually, and we take it very seriously, she didn't get a chance to early vote, but she is in Savannah, Georgia, actually traveling. She left extra earlier today so that she could come back and ensure that her vote was cast. That's how serious we are taking these efforts, because these are crucial times. And if we're not taking ownership about our own success and our own involvement, we'll be by the sidelines, and we won't have what we need. And so I implore everyone, out of those 2 million, only about 500,000 African Americans have voted. So those others ones that have voted, they're in your house, they're in your church, they're in your community. Encourage them, get out and vote today.
Someone asked the question, and they asked the question, can you all tell us why it is so important to vote in this election?
Well, for starters, exercising your right to vote is something that you should be doing every time the polls are open, right? That's number one. But number two, when we look across the state of Florida and see some of the issues that could potentially be decided based on those who we elect this election cycle, it's incumbent upon all of us to get involved, right? We have issues like affordability, right? It costs more to live in the state of Florida than it did years ago. If you're a homeowner, you're seeing your home insurance increase. You haven't seen the state do anything to address that in a meaningful way. If you're a renter, the rates have gone up, $1,500, $1,600, $1,800 to rent in the state of Florida. And then when you look at issues of democracy, right? Equal Ground is a voting rights organization. We do everything that we can to protect access to the ballot box. We've seen extreme attacks on the right to vote, on the right for us to be able to cast our ballot. And even we've seen attacks on democracy when it comes to who represents us. As your listeners may know, we did the 2022 census. And as a result of that, they had to do the redistricting where they redrew the congressional lines. And because of that, we now have congressional maps because the governor of the state moved forward with creating a map that eliminated 2 Black access seats from our congressional map. So what that means is previously, because of the Voting Rights Act at the federal level, states were allowed to create what is called minority access seats, right? And so in 1992, Carrie Meek, the late Carrie Meek, the late Congressman Alcee Hastings, as well as Congresswoman Corrine Brown, they all were able to go and represent us in the United States Congress. And so what has happened is since that time back in 1992, we were able to pick up an additional seat. That was for Congresswoman Val Demings in the Orlando area. And so we had 4 seats out of the 27 that were represented by African Americans. Governor DeSantis earlier this year worked with the legislature to remove 2 of those seats. And so now with this current congressional map that we're voting on, there's only 2 seats that we can guarantee will be represented by a Black person, right? And that's a problem when you have that type of attack. And it wasn't necessary. It wasn't warranted. It wasn't as if Black communities have shifted throughout the state and have moved in a way that was not going to be possible. It was very deliberate and intentional. And so because of that, it's important that we get out there and we exercise our right and we say, no, we're not going to take this. We're not going to allow you to take away our congressional representation and then reward you by allowing you to return to these offices and continue to do more harm.
And it's important to highlight, I think Genesis highlights that great, and specifically around the attack against voting rights. Historically, when African Americans vote, they vote for liberty and justice for all, not for one particular demographic or one community. So it's very important that when we vote, it's almost to the concept of when I eat, we all eat. And right. So that's how it kind of looks like. And so that's why we employ African Americans, because we have a different understanding and cultural understanding than other communities, and we're going to vote for things that are going to benefit everyone. That's why it's important. That's why we are encouraging people. That's why we are trying to increase Black voter turnout, because when Black people vote, it's going to ensure that we have equality and justice across the board. We cannot say that for other communities, but we do have data to say when Black people vote, everyone's going to get fair share.
That's right. So go ahead, Mr. Jensen.
No, one of the things, I mean, obviously we were talking about democracy and voting rights, but in addition to that, all of the cabinet positions are up on the ballot this election, right? So you have the Attorney General, you have the Commissioner of Agriculture, you have the Chief Financial Officer for the state of Florida. In addition to that, there are 5 Supreme Court justices who are up for retention. Dr. Mandrell, you talked about the justices earlier, right? Those justices will play a direct role. There's a pending litigation right now in court to push back against the plan that the governor offered with respect to removing the 2 congressional seats that are held by Black people. And so this next Supreme Court will determine, what that case outcome will be, right? And so when you have 5 of the 7, we have an opportunity right now to decide whether they stay or go. That's important, and it's just critical. And one other point that I'll add there is, going back 4 years ago when we saw Governor DeSantis take office in his election against Andrew Gillum, which was one of the closest gubernatorial elections in the history of our state, decided by less than 32,000 votes, right? Governor DeSantis was able to then go on and elect 4 Supreme Court justices to our state Supreme Court. Now, hear me, 4 of those were elected by Governor DeSantis. That just shows you how high the stakes are and how broad the power is that comes with being governor. And so I think it's important for folks to know that and use that information when they go in there to cast their vote.
And one thing I'll add to that to solidify Genesis' point just a little further, the federal judge, Mark E., I believe it's Walker, who was the first one to look at the SB 90 case, he said this in his debrief or ruling. He said there had been over 20 years of strategic voter suppression against African Americans in the state of Florida. Over 20 years of voter suppression. Why? Because to that point, when Black people vote, when they have access to voting, they're going to ensure equality for everyone. And so I implore you, my brothers and sisters, we can't say it loudly or more. Get out and vote today. Our future depends on it.
Someone asked a question as well. Should they be concerned about the absentee votes? Perhaps if you send it in, they send it in and they're concerned, is it going to count? Is it going to make it there? What's going to, should voters be overly concerned as it relates to absentee ballots?
Yeah, well, that's always a concern when you're casting a vote, is whether or not your vote will be counted. And I can assure you that there have been enormous strides and efforts taken to ensure that those votes are counted and are received. So much so that now voters can go to their county supervisor's website and typically track whether or not the ballot was received. And I do believe that in Leon County, that technology and that resource is available to voters. So you can go on to the Supervisor of Elections website for Leon County, and you can put in your information, and they will tell you if your ballot has been received. So that's one way. Another way is you can always do the old school way, picking up the phone and calling, providing your information, and they will confirm if your ballot has been received. But I will say, to that point, if you have not sent in your ballot, it is too late. You must go and take it to the Supervisor of Elections office and turn it in to be able to have that vote counted. It is not a matter of if you have mailed your ballot by 7 p.m. on election day. It must be received by 7 p.m. on election day. And so I just want to really make sure that folks understand that if you have not mailed in your ballot, you must physically drive it over and take it so that it can be counted.
Now, did you have to go to your registered precinct to vote now? Or can you go to the election office or the courthouse, or how does that go? Because we want people to know where you need to go to vote.
Yes.
Because your vote matters.
Yes, thank you for that. So right now, given that it is election day, all voters are responsible for going to their precinct to go cast their vote. No longer can you go to an early voting site or something like that. That has ended. So if you desire to vote today and you have not voted, you will be going to your voting precinct. If you do not know where that is, you can call the supervisor's office, or you can visit a website, vote411.org. That is a site created by one of our partners over at the League of Women Voters, where they have compiled this resource that not only tells you where you can go and vote, but they have provided information on each of the candidates and each of the issues that are on the ballot to help you be a more informed voter. And again, that website is vote411.org, vote411.org, and you can find out that information today.
Yeah. One of the things that we saw happening, I see my husband on here. Thank you, sweetheart, for being on here. He's able to be, usually he's at work, so he don't get to see the show. He have to go back, but he made a comment that our governor and legislator have created a climate of voter intimidation by sending so-called poll watchers, investigators that are arresting legitimate registered voters. We had an incident that happened. We had a young lady at our church, a young lady who had served her time in prison. She received a voter registration card. When they was in prison, Pastor Marcus and Mr. Genesis, they told her when she was released that she was now able to vote. Well, she had been in prison for like 9 or 10 years. So she took the word that she was able to vote. She went, she registered to vote. They sent her a voter's registration card. They sent her an app, vote by mail. They sent her everything. She voted. And I don't think she voted this time because she's afraid to, because what happened October, I think it was in October or September, an investigator came to her left a card, and then called her early one morning, said they were going to beat her house. And she called because she was afraid. They told her she had committed voters fraud. And she was like, how did I do that? And she also received a new card for this election. I mean, she received her new voter registration. When all of us got our new card, she received one. She received the information again to vote. I called an attorney to ask what did she should do, and she said when they come back, don't have her not to say a word, not to say a word, not to say anything else, and tell them that she would not speak to them till she talked to her attorney, but they really thought she was going to be arrested on the spot. But the state attorney stated he's not gonna prosecute these people because it should have been cleared. I think they were supposed to contact the supervisors of election and let them know, but they hadn't. So do you all think this is gonna? I mean, and I saw a lot of people in I think Tampa and different places that was arrested because of the same incident. What do you have to say? Because a lot of these people, I got someone here now, they're afraid to vote.
Yeah. And you know, Dr. Mandrell, it's quite unfortunate that is happening. But the story of the person that you just shared is not an isolated incident, unfortunately. Throughout the state of Florida, many people have been arrested, have been targeted, all because they are returning citizens trying to get their affairs in order to be able to participate in our democracy. And really, the legislature undermined the will of voters. Yet again, we see it often where voters say one thing and then the legislature will go in and do something to undermine what it is that the voter said. And that was exactly the case with Amendment 4, which gave returning citizens their ability to come and vote. Basically, the law said if you have done your time and you want to come back and be registered to vote, we're going to give you that ability to do that. But what happened is the legislature went in after voters had passed this overwhelmingly, and they said, oh, no, we're going to now incorporate fines and fees, right? And so now there's this thing where if you owe restitution, if you owe money of any sort, any court fees, that is also considered your sentence effectively. And so even though you're out of jail or even though you're no longer incarcerated or on probation, if you haven't paid back all of the money, that is now considered part of your sentence. And so it's a serious problem. It's happening all over the state of Florida. As Pastor G said there, you know, it is really done in an effort to put intimidation and fear in the process so that folks can say, you know what, maybe I won't vote. Maybe it's not worth the hassle for me to potentially be away from my family and my friends and my loved ones over a vote, right? I can just not vote and I won't have to worry about that. And so that was very intentional on what they did there. Even to take it a step further, just a few weeks ago, the governor and his lieutenants mailed out letters to supervisors of elections with very unclear information that essentially said, hey, these are people that we suspect may not be eligible to vote. It didn't give them a mandate to remove the people. It didn't give them any clear instructions on if they were not eligible. It said that these are people that we think, you know, it was no definitive piece, but what it did is it instilled fear, right?
Yeah.
It instilled fear. And so you can bet your bottom dollar that there are folks throughout the state of Florida who are not casting a vote because they don't want to be caught up in the crosshairs of this political back and forth, in an effort to intimidate voters. So it's quite sad and unfortunate. But the best thing that we can do is become educated around the process and to help our people try to do their due diligence, because clearly the state has said that they don't have any role in it. To your point earlier about the young lady receiving it, right? You know, she went and voted. And so if I'm not eligible to vote, why are you sending me a voter registration card? That's like telling someone, if I give you a driver's license, that doesn't mean that you're eligible to drive, so it's quite ridiculous. And it's just sad that so many people are affected by it.
Yeah, I'm really disheartened by the way tactics, but the Bible tells us that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And so because we're a people of faith, we know that these things happen. But two things I want to give you. I don't know if a technician is writing down. So if you are having trouble and you want voter assistance, there's a hotline that you can call, 866-308-6739. Again, that's 866-308-6739. One more time, 866-308-6739. There are attorneys standing by. There are election experts standing by who can help and assist you to ensure that you get what you need so that you can vote. And then the other number I want to give you is for returning citizens. The Florida Rights Restoration Coalition has people standing by to help pay for fines and fees if you need that. And that number is 1-877-698-6830. Again, that's 1-877-698-6830. I lift that up because there are resources to help you. And I really wanted to challenge our community that, yes, there are impediments that are trying to stop you, but you got to overcome that. You really got to overcome that. There were people who knew going to the voting polls, they were going to be arrested. There were people who knew going to the voting polls, they could be lynched. They could die. And I just want to challenge our community that, yes, again, there are challenges, but you have to say, I will not be moved because this is so important. Many of us during COVID-19, we're not following all the protocols.
Right.
We're not doing what we're just living our best life. And I challenge you with that same zeal and method that you go about other things that you want to do, because
Right.
this is what I learned, Dr. Mandrell, a long time ago in the church. People do what they want to do.
I agree, 100%.
So if you're going to use all of these tactics, yes, they are true. Yes, there are impediments. Yes, there is strategic things trying to stop the vote of Black people, but you have to overcome that and get to the polls.
Yeah, because I really feel people are, and when the Black people come together, we really are a force to be reckoned with. We are a powerful group of people, and if we come together in unity, that is it. And then we have to be watchful too, you all. I believe that Governor DeSantis and some of these Republicans, and I'm not saying all, because some Democrats as well, have put people in place to divide what could happen justly and righteously in our Black community. So they have put people in place, as I'm hearing both of you say, who let's go with Amendment 4. We voted that, and then the legislator overturned it. Well, they knew they were going to overturn it anyway, because they had people in who they had voted in place who knew that they would get them to go on their side once everything was over, the voting was over. Because
Yes.
it took the people who were elected to change these laws. So my sisters and brothers, you got to be careful of the tactics. As Pastor Marcus said, we got to pay attention. We have to pay attention of people that they're bringing out the vote. But when this is over, they're not going to be for what is best for the people in the community, especially our Black community. We're educated now. We're moving forward. We're owning businesses. We're COO, CFO, that's Chief Operating Officer, Chief Financial Officer. We have our own business. Come on, the Vice President of the United States is a Black woman. Listen, look at all these women who are getting, these Black women who are getting in high position. It has to be stopped.
Yes.
So they bring out people like Herschel Walker. That man is not ready to be anything.
That's right.
Especially politically.
Yes.
You know, he's not. So they bring in, they got all, then look at some of these people, their background, they're racist. And so they're not going to vote on our behalf. And then they put people in place who they know are going to work for them, for that part of the legislature that hinders us. We got to think about our future. We got to think about our children. These next 3, 4, 5 years, whatever happened on this election is going to affect us badly. If we do not put the right, and we cannot be fooled by the rhetoric of people who have helped this community, and now they're bringing in people who haven't done a thing for this community, or they did it years ago. We don't need no years. We don't care what you did in 1998. We need to know what you're doing now.
That's right.
Brothers?
That's right. No, I could not agree with you more on that. And in fact, when you talk about the evolution of how things have changed, it really cuts at the core of how they're trying to change the rules, right? Because as you said with Amendment 4, voters said one thing, they went another way. When it came to the use of medical cannabis for patients, voters said one thing, they went another way. 10 years ago, we passed the Fair Districts Amendments, which were very clear, and it said you cannot draw political boundaries. You cannot draw redistricting boundaries for political reasons. And what do we have? Maps for political reasons. So, it is very clear that the legislature is not committed to following the will of the people. And I just wish that people would see that, right? Yeah. These are your elected leaders who are saying, we can care less about what it is that you have said that you wanted. We can care less about what you have voted on. We're going to go in a different direction because, quote unquote, we know best, right? And that's a serious problem. And one other thing that I want to add to that in terms of them wanting to change the rules, right now in the state of Florida for ballot initiatives and ballot amendments, such as Amendment 4, there's a threshold of 60%. Right. So we're not talking about 51 people agreeing with one thing and 49 people thinking another way. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a high threshold of if there are, 100 voters, 60 of them have to feel a certain way. Right. So this is a high threshold. This is even a higher threshold than we have for our elections in the state of Florida. Right. The governor can be elected on 50% plus one vote. That's all it takes. But when it comes to these ballot initiatives and these ballot amendments, you need 60% of the voters to agree. That's not something that is easily done, right? Now, to take it a step further, the legislature this year tried to raise that threshold from 60% to 66% because we were having too much success winning and getting the issues that we care about taken care of through the ballot initiative process. So they said, oh, no, we can't allow that. Because these folks are getting organized, they're winning issues that matter to their community. And so we're going to now try to raise that threshold. Fortunately, we were able to defeat that and it didn't go into effect this year. But you best believe that if, the powers that be get back into office, they will be coming back next year to try to push that through and make it even harder for us to get those type of initiatives passed on the ballot box.
Yeah. Voting is only one part of the process. All right. Voting is not an end all be all. The other part is accountability. We have to hold those that are in office, whether they are our party favorites or not, we have to hold them accountable to ensuring that they are providing equity across the board. And so one of the things that we failed to do is that part, because some of us just cast our vote and we leave the table. But there's a legislative session coming up in 2023, and Equal Ground is going to be at the forefront with Dr. Mandrell, and we don't want to be the only three standing there. We need you raising your voice, telling your story, and showing and offering what you want your community to look like. So again, brothers and sisters, I think we have efficiently laid out the data for you. There are attacks on every hand, but this cannot stop us. We must cast our vote today.
You must. If you have not voted, go vote. Go vote.
And bring someone else with you.
And bring. And Pastor Marcus stated it earlier. Y'all, we can only really influence the people in our houses, our family. Make sure our family's voting. Make sure our friends are voting. Talk to your neighbor. I talked with my neighbors. I said, did you vote? And she said, well, I'm going to vote tomorrow, but she had been sick. I said, well, go vote. It was early voting. I said, well, go on and vote. Peradventure, you have to go to the hospital, and at least your vote will be there. And I wasn't sounding morbid or anything, but my thing was go vote early. Peradventure, something happened, and because if you're not in line at 7 p.m., you can't get in line.
That's right.
You can't get in line. But if you're in line at 7 p.m., then it's okay. It's okay. Because as I think one of the brothers stated, You can stay there until take 9 o'clock. And I heard one state, they're only going to count their ballots by hand. Y'all, we had a perfect voting system the last major election. Even our governor stated how good of a voting system it was. And now he's coming implementing all of these different things. And y'all got to understand. And I keep saying to Black people, y'all know I'm not just, I'm Black and I love it. But I'm for everybody. But Black people, we got to wake up.
That's right.
We complain, but we don't go do that one part, 2 parts of this, as was stated. We won't cast our vote in large amount, and then we don't hold people accountable when they get in position. Whether it's your friend, your cousin, your auntie, if we vote them in, there's an accountability that we have to hold these people to.
That's right. You are so right on that. We have to hold them accountable. As it was said earlier on the voting piece, 7 p.m. right in the whole state of Florida. So depending on no matter where you are, you have until 7 p.m. to get there, cast your vote, get in line, and make sure that your voice is heard, because there's just too much at stake for us not to have turned out. With only 25%, I mean, that number just really frustrates me. That to know that there are 2 million of us registered voters in the state of Florida, and we've only had 25% of us turn out. That is incredibly low. We're only about 10%. So out of all of the votes that have been cast this election cycle, Black people make up for only 10% of those votes. Wow. In the state of Florida, we make up a higher percentage of the population than that, and so we have to at least be on par with where we are in the state with a population perspective, but we definitely have to do better than 25% of Black voters turning out.
I know we often say, and I say it a lot, and you all can address this, about how powerful our voice is through our voting process, but a lot of people think my vote don't matter. It doesn't matter anyway. People, will y'all address that, please?
No, so again, the last gubernatorial election was decided by less than 32,000 votes, right? Black people make up 2 million voters in the state of Florida. We could have easily decided that election had 32,000 more of us decided to show up and vote. And that would have meant that we would have had a governor who shares our values, someone who understands what it is when we talk about the issues that are affecting our community. The last U.S. Senate race was decided by less than 15,000 votes between the former Governor Rick Scott and Senator Bill Nelson, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you talk about Black folks having a voting power of over 2 million in this state, that's another race that we could have decided. So the races in Florida are typically close, right? Florida was considered by political pundits a state that is quote unquote purple, a mixture of red and blue. And so we could do it if we vote and then we show up and we vote consistently. But the problem is we have to get to the polls, and we can't make it the responsibility alone to get ourselves there, but we have to get those around us. We've been kind of going with this motto, as Pastor McCoy said, take folks with you. Arrive to the polls. After you have voted, call down your Rolodex, call your friends, go online, engage with your social community, get everybody out there to vote and let them know that they can make a difference this election.
And I'll add this. If your vote didn't matter, Judge Walker would have researched and saw that there was 20 years of voter suppression against African Americans. If your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't fight us this hard.
Right.
To try to take it away.
To take it away.
Right.
They are fighting this hard because your voice and your vote does matter. Who would put billions of dollars into strategies of years of planning to stop you if it didn't matter? They could use that money elsewhere.
That's right.
But they're strategically using it, and it's working. That's the part that really bulls me. It's working. You're not voting. You don't care. But I encourage you, care today. Pick up a phone. If you have voted, but the Bible says all things have become new. So let's old things have passed away. Forget it. This is a new day. Pick up the phone, call your brother, call your sister. Hey, let's get out and vote. Maybe you don't know what to vote for. Now, I'm nonpartisan, so I can't tell you how to vote or what you should vote for. On this line, I can't tell you that. But if you call Dr. Mandrell,
Yes,
she'll give you some tools to help you make some wise decisions. So whatever that number is, reach out to her. She will have the tools to give to you and your community to give you some options that will best serve the interests that we feel that you need if you need help voting. But you need to do that today because this is what? Election day and the last day to vote.
and I want to say this. Yeah, call me. I've been a part of Equal Grounds. So I've learned a lot. You all would think I'm as smart as the gentleman, right? And I've learned it. And I am as smart as they because I have all the information. Right. And I wanted to learn so I can better serve the community, better serve the people. So I'm investing in me to learn this. But listen to this. It said now states are represented in the House of Representatives in various portions. There are, if I'm right, y'all correct me. I think that all of the House seats are being up for voting for re-election. 435. You know what they're counting on? They're counting on 435 Republicans in that seat, in those seats.
Yes.
If you all do not get, and you say, well, it won't hurt, it will, because our local election is what put people in our these houses of representatives, this House of Representatives and House of Senators, the Senate, and they represent us. We want people to represent us who really believe in us, who really care about the issues that we care about. We want, and so if you don't vote, what you're saying is it doesn't matter who they put in, but then you're gonna start fighting and cursing. Why fight and curse when you can vote now to put the right person in? You can't just start cursing because you didn't vote. I mean, you can, but it doesn't matter. You know?
No, that's all right. At the federal level, as you have said, Dr. Mandrell, 435 members of the House of Representatives are all up for election, and that takes place every 2 years because it's the House. So every 2 years, there's an election to determine the makeup of the House of Representatives. In the Senate, a third of the Senate is elected every 2 years. They serve 6-year terms, so they'll do a third of the senators 2 years, and in the next set of 2 years, it'll be another third. But here in the state of Florida, in our Florida legislature, we have 120 House members for the Florida House of Representatives who are up for re-election. And then there are 40 senators. So a total of 160 seats for the Florida legislature alone, on top of the 28 congressional seats that we have to elect at the federal level. There are. And then you have all the cabinet positions. You have 5 Supreme Court justices who are on the ballot. You have constitutional amendments. You have mayors, city council, prosecutors, and judges throughout, the state. I mean, it's just so many important elections that are going to be decided today. And you do not want those elections to be decided without your voice being a part of that process.
So, gentlemen, I want to thank you all. We have a few minutes left, but I want you all to take a couple of minutes and really speak to the hearts of our listeners as we end this at 12:30. And at 12:30, you will have 6.5 hours left to go vote. Our prayer is that the numbers everywhere will increase. What's the movie when they found out Chris Rock was running for president, and all they all start running out their houses? That's what we need to happen in our Black community. We need to take this as a matter of life and death. Some people don't. That's all. We just vote, and don't just vote because find out about the person for real, y'all. We got to put people in office that care about us. We need a mayor that care about the Black community. We can't be left out of decisions. They have to care, not just coming around during voting time. They have to care. Sir, why you Commissioner Diane William Cox? She's not running this time. She's already been reelected for the next 4 years, so I didn't have to work hard. For a few other candidates I did, but when she lost the first time, what made me know that she was real, she still worked in that community. She served in that community like what she had promised she was going to do if elected. She wasn't elected. She wasn't elected the second time, but you know what she did? She kept working. And I think it was the third or fourth time she was finally elected. Then she was re-elected in our last voting period. She was re-elected. That's when you know people really care about what they're doing. That's when you know that the people that you're about to vote for is sincere. Is this your first time seeing them? Check them out and see what they're really about. Do some research, look at it. They hadn't been around in 10 years, but they used to have a little pee-wee football, and they hadn't done anything with little pee-wee or big pee-wee. And now all of a sudden here they come. You better go find out something. You understand? Because this is my belief, they're gonna get with the legislator when all this is over, and they're gonna vote their agenda. We need somebody who care about us. Talk to us, Mr. Genesis, and then close us out, Mr. Pastor Marcus.
Yes, I just again want to thank you, Dr. Mandrell, for providing this platform for Pastor McCoy and I to come and share with your listeners. The work that you do is absolutely incredible. Doing your part to educate our community about the issues that matter. If I could just leave your listeners with one thing, it would just, be to reemphasize the importance of voting this election cycle. There's so much at stake. And, I used to work for a member of Congress who used to always say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I mean, that's really what we're dealing with here. If we are not at the table when they are making decisions, if we're not a part of that decision making, then we will likely be the ones on the chopping block. We will likely be the ones who will have resources taken from our community and given to others. And so we have to be a part of this process. It is not too late to go and cast your vote. Again, 6.5 hours left. Find out your voting precinct. If you do not know your voting precinct, you can go to vote411.org. Again, that's vote411.org. We will provide you with not only your voting location, but it will provide you a list of all of the candidates and some information on where those candidates stands on very important issues so that you can be an informed voter. So again, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity today to join your listeners.
Thank you so very much. Pastor Marcus.
Yes, ma'am. Echo those sentiments. Thank you so much, Dr. Mandrell. I say this to all of the listeners: you're worth your fight. Wow. You're worth your own fight. Wow. If you're not going to fight for you, no one else will. Wow. This is an opportunity for you to stand up and fight for yourself. And even if the outcomes do not lend themselves to what you want, get in the fight. The race is not given to the swift, nor the battle to the strong. 2 different scriptures in the Word of God, if you didn't know. But to those that endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So I want to encourage you that you are worth your fight. Now is the time. Get involved. Equal Ground is here to help you. If you want to learn more, you can text Equal Ground. That's one phrase to 52886. Again, that's Equal Ground to 52886. And we are here to hold your hand and to fight with you as you do what you need to do to make our community better. So thank you so much.
Again, thank you, Pastor Marcus. Thank you, Mr. Genesis. Thank you, audience. Thank you all so very much for being on. Thank you, Priscilla. Y'all, this has been a great show, and we're believing that if you had not voted before the show, you will go and vote after the show. We're going to believe that. So may God be with you. Again, everybody, thank you for voting for me. I'm the radio show 100th year 2022 for Tampa Bay Gospel. And so y'all join us tonight at 7:30 for our Bible study. My pastor will be teaching Bible study tonight. So we're looking for a grand time. There it is. God bless you, and know this. Until I see you next Tuesday, I do see you in the future, and you look so much better than you do right now. That's real talk.
Real talk with Judy. Real talk with Judy on the radio. Real talk.